ladies and gentlemen, another episode of the Horns Down Podcast, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast, and Sooners 360 collab episode. Yes. We got Chris Mason here. We got Jason as well. Jason Watkins, the man that's always busy. I think these two may be some of the more busier guys in this industry. If I can say that, these guys are some of the most underrated guys in the business as well. Some people for sure. Go down to the bio. After you read the bio and all the rest of that stuff, you'll see the links to all the Twitters, websites, Patreons, to the YouTube pages, all the rest of that stuff. But while you're here on either channel, any of these channels, like and subscribe, do all those different things. That helps us out just as much as it helps you out as well. And also, I mean, hey, we're giving you guys a lot of details. No fluff, not a lot of fluff, but we're here to talk about a bunch of things OU, right? This is the bye week, and we have some things to talk about. So I guess the first question that we'll get into is BV the guy? But first off, just want to give the round table a chance to say what's up to everybody. Chris Mason, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Jason?
Always good, babe. Always good. Ready to come in and talk about it.
Exactly. So we'll segue. That's a great segue because Jason is first up. Jason, is BV the guy? Your thoughts about it all the way around?
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a sticky question. I think that he's the guy. I think that he's still, when you look at what he's done recruiting-wise, what they've done to this defense, it tells you that he's bringing along the kind of players that you have to win in the SEC. Now, it has not exactly equated to that this year, and there's a few reasons why. And to be fair, all of those reasons pretty much go back to Brent Venables. I don't want to sit here and make it all about him. I do believe that there's a reason why he's in trouble, though. And I got to tell you, President Harroz and Joe C giving him the vote of confidence scares you a little bit, because that's a dreaded vote of confidence almost every time. So every time somebody comes out and says, oh, yeah, we love him, he's staying, a couple of weeks later, it could be the other way. So what I would say is that I don't think you have to come out and win. I think you have to come out and be competitive in these next two games. You cannot afford to have Alabama come in and blow you out of your own house and expect to have people excited about you being back. I do feel like it's a situation where, because of the buyout, I don't really think that they're looking to fire him this year. But I do think that his seat is boiling hot starting next year. They have to hit this offensive coordinator hire out of the park, because, to be honest, whether it's true or not that he mailed it in, perception is the rule. So I believe that that's really the biggest part of what's going on here. And the fact that we've seen Brent hesitate. He hesitates to make decisions. He hesitates, especially when the decision needs to happen. I think that he knew weeks before that he had to get rid of Seth Littrell, and he didn't do it. And I think it's probably even more egregious that after the Texas debacle, you didn't do it. And he had excuses for it. And then a week later, now we're playing musical chairs with quarterbacks and stuff. And I think that that's probably put us in a bad situation there as well. In the end, I think that you can recover from this. I think that you better recover from this immediately, though. You do not have time to go through another year where you go 7-5 or like 5-7 next year, 6-6. That's not going to cut it, because at that point, you start losing recruits that way. And I don't know that you're going to have the easiest time in the world getting quarterbacks, and that concerns me because of the fact that you did play the musical chairs thing. That's a problem for me. I said it before, when they put Watkins in, they needed to leave him in, because I knew you had already lost Jackson Arnold. There was no two ways around it. I don't care how he played good soldier, all that other stuff. I've never believed that he was coming back, ever. Now you've put it in danger that both of them leave. And so now you have to get a portal guy along with it. I think that some of these things are starting to stack up, and there's a reason why people are so upset. I'm all in with him too, Eric Barnett. I'm all in with him too.
Let me jump in here real quick, Chris Mason, before you go. Shout out to our Texas brethren that are coming over here. Shout out to Ben G, right? I think losing to Bama and LSU isn't isn't fireable in itself. But if the offense continues to look lost and the best plays or special teams tricks could get tricky, and that's respectable. That's a good comment. That's a fair comment. But I will say this right here. What I will piggyback off of that is that both of these games, kind of piggyback off of both of you, Benji and Jason. You mentioned Texas, right? This is a Texas person right here. They're mentioning Bama and LSU. This game cannot, these next two games cannot look like the Texas game, right?
Back.
To where you have life, you're getting stops, you're doing everything you need to do, and then all of a sudden the dam collapses, right? Because there are certain things that you have to do to beat Bama, and you have to do it. You can't just not do it, right? You got to pass at their corners. Got to test that secondary. You have to make that secondary work. Secondary is talented, but some of those guys are young. Some of those guys are technique gets sloppy, lazy, whatever. We can talk about that down the line. But at the same time, both of those teams right now, present set, they're better than us, right? So what I'll say is this right here. To me, that these next two games cannot look like the Texas game. It can't look like, it's got to look more like the Ole Miss game than anything. Chris Mason.
Before the Missouri game, I would have said that, yeah, I would have thought, I would have said, yes, Brent, with an OC hire, can get this done. Post Missouri, and I'll be honest, I'm not that worried. I'm both worried and not worried about the quarterback situation, right? Because if we can't find a guy better than the level of effort we've been getting from our quarterbacks this year in the portal, that would be shocking. I mean, we'll get better. If both guys leave, they leave. So be it. At this point, I'm like, well, neither one of you have shown that you are a guaranteed lockdown superstar. So, this is the way the quarterback portal is. If you can't stand competition and you can't stand things, then have a good day, and here's some lovely parting gifts for you. So, from the quarterback standpoint, you can get a portal quarterback who could give them better play than we got this year from either Arnold or Hawkins. I'm pretty damn sure of that. So is Brent the guy? The thing I worry the most about is the sloppiness, the lack of precision in what we saw Saturday night. And the lack of Brent being able to impose his will on what the offense should have been doing on Saturday night. They should never have put Jackson Arnold there dropping back. Should have ran the ball, see if X-Rob broke a big run, and then go for the game-winning field goal. Play for overtime. You had the best unit on the field in your defense. Your kicker was having a good day. And Drew Pine was a mistake away from maybe giving you the game in overtime. So I'm concerned that Brent didn't have the level of focus to tell Joe Jon Finley, run the goddamn football and get us into overtime. If you break something big, then get Jackson out on a quick pass to put us into a field goal range. But it's the game strategy that has Brent can recruit. He's a good he's a good program builder. It is the game strategy part of this that has me the most concerned, right? Bad OC hire. Okay, everybody. I've hired lots of people. I hired bad people before. They weren't the same. I've rehired people. They weren't the same person they were in the previous job. I can get all that. It's the game strategy part of this that the margins in winning SEC games are very, very narrow. We're not going to out-talent anybody. We're not going to out-talent 8 teams in the the 7 or 8 teams on our SEC schedule. We're just not. We may have more talent than say 4 teams, but we're going to play 4 teams that have equal talent or better or equal or better recruited talent than us in the SEC. That's just a fact. And I'm concerned that Brent's game strategy is not progressing year over year as fast as it needs to. In terms of, I'm concerned. My concern is that he's too focused on the defense, and he's not able to see the game strategy picture enough to have made sure Jackson Arnold did not throw the game away Saturday. I can't understand Joe Jon Finley not seeing that, but obviously, I can't imagine Bob Stoops. Let me just put it this way: I can't imagine Bob Stoops letting that happen. He did punt twice, so he's not immune to the bad decisions himself. But I think Brent can get it done, but he needs to spend an off season with someone who can help him figure out how to be more of the game general. That was a Mario Cristobal loss Saturday night.
You could say it's on that level. You could say it's on that level.
The worst game day coach in America, right? That's a Mario Cristobal loss.
7-point lead with 2 minutes left, and you lose in regulation. That is
by 7
loss.
Yeah, it's a Mario Cristobal. It's a Cristobal loss.
Absolutely.
We got Cristobal Saturday night to turn it into a verb. That's my concern. Obviously, he recruits well. I'm a recruiting guy. The talent on the team is on the upswing. I think a lot of the everyone's saying, we're going to go to the portal for these offensive linemen. No, we don't. You've got Ozeda and Howland who are getting better week over week. You've got Autry Dent, EPL, Akin Kimi coming again, and then you've got Afalava, Fasusi, and hopefully Foje if things go okay on signing day. And plus you have Everett and Taylor and Sexton probably coming back. So that's a lot of names I just listed, and that gives you more depth and talent. You need one, So to me, I think it's a red herring, as everyone's saying. We need to recruit O-line better. That's already happened, guys. Yeah. We're paying the bill for past mistakes. And I think Brent, the concern I have is the overall is game day, right? Just game day stuff. That's the bigger concern I have. The talent and the OC strategy and development stuff, I think can work itself out, right? All the off-season stuff can work itself out. Apparently there's changes coming with the med staff, rehab staff, to try and not have this same MASH unit look we had again this year with guys not really coming back as fast as they should, and some of those things. To me, I think all those things get fixed or can get fixed. Those are the things Joe C can help with and find folks to help with. It's the game day part I'm most worried about at this point.
So, fellas, let me jump in here real quick. Schooner Nate says he's not getting fired this year. Doesn't matter what happens these next 2 games, especially because these next 2 are really good programs. This team is what it is this year. And I agree with that last part. This team is what it is this year as well. So that's a good comment. Next comment, gosh, I know I just here it is. Eric Barnett. He says, we call for BV to fix our defense. He's done so. No one on earth could have predicted offensive line and injuries. We were told a little bit of both, but I just don't think that we all could have guesstimated that this was going to happen. But I'll jump in here and I'll say, hey, look, people, I'm all aboard. I'm still big on BV. I think BV, there are 2 decisions that this boils down to, right? Two decisions that to me were, and there's one underrated one, but there's 2 decisions that I guess in hindsight piss you off, confuse you, make you a little bit upset, make you sick to your stomach, different things like that, right? First decision, shout out to Monk. He always says this most of the calls that we're on. He says, I think Brent coming here trying to do it the Clemson way right off the bat. I think if he had a chance to do it over again, I think he would have hit the portal harder. I think that he would have done a lot more in that first year, not only to retain a good portion of his class, but also to go out there and make this team better and go ahead and get guys out of here. Right? I know it's not as great to see, especially on the level like somebody like Prime, but you see Prime second year, it's helped, right? And you see some places it's helped bring more stability. But obviously he's a coach that wants to build through the high school ranks, so I give him that. But at the same time, that's a decision that you say, could he have, did something better? Second decision that I would say that is going to already is obviously the Seth Littrell. You had Colton Neckett, you had some guys out there that, to me, had a better understanding of what your offensive line could do, and they've done more with less, right? Those guys probably could have came in here and helped this O-line to get them to the point early on in the season where you were seeing a push, where you were seeing, holes in the defense and all types of stuff. And those are guys that could have, ran short game and ran something to the liking of a Jackson Arnold or a Hawkins early on. I think that Littrell was really trying to marry two systems in one, his system and Levy's system, and that just was not him. To be honest with you, at this point, I don't necessarily know what Littrell was running because I've only seen him run kind of a true spread, light air raid type offense at North Texas and other places, but this place, I don't know. Seeing him there under Fedora and all those guys there in North Carolina, it still makes you think like, well, damn, I saw you do more with less there, right? But that is what it is. So I think those two decisions right there, and obviously an underrated decision would be hiring Ted Roof, but that's something that I would say that gives me hope because what he's hired in Zach Alley is a head coach in a few years. I think Zach Alley is still learning, kind of adjusting to this level of the game. Obviously, he was at Clemson, but not in the role that he is now. I like Alley. I like Alley a lot. I like Alley 85% of the time, opposed to whenever he's trying to run that three-man front a whole bunch, right? But outside of that, BV fixed the defense himself and then when it got somebody that he can trust to hand it over to try to make some decisions. But one thing that I will say, people, is this right here, and I stick by this. Coaches have to make the game easier for the players, but when the ball is snapped, when a ref is over here, whenever that popcorn smell is in the building, when it's in the stadium, when it's in the arena, you have to go out there and do it. Players gonna make plays, people. So two truths can exist at the same time, as Ty Hayes would say. Yes. Coaches need to do better with game management, strategy, overall, all the rest of this stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, a coach is dialing up something for you where you're running a 10-yard scat, you get about 15 yards on that and you fumble. Then you come back out there the very next drive, you fumble again, And I think that's something that people got to understand. It's not necessarily just interceptions with Jackson Arnold. It's ball security all the way around. Back in the day,
facts.
He would be walking around campus with a football at all times simply because he can't hang on to it. He's tentative to throw it down the field, and at this point in time, you can't really trust him running the ball himself. Anytime he runs it, it feels like we're watching Jalen Hurts in the second half of his season, where you're just holding your breath, hoping he does not turn the ball over. And so at the end of the day, I get what you were saying, Jason, but I still say it was a routine football play. Go down with the ball. Chris Mason said it the last time. Go down with the football. There was nothing spectacular about the hit. There was no type of targeting or any type of illegal or crazy hit that he endured. That was simply just a boneheaded mistake. So at the end of the day, we have to figure something out. Everything that you guys say, what people are saying in the chat, that stuff does have to happen. Stuff does have to happen. It's going to have to happen. So I can't excuse everything for BV, but what I will tell you people is that I am still on the BV boat, and so I'm going to ride that out with him because, in my opinion, I think that any offensive coordinator, like I've told you guys in the past, any offensive coordinator that feels cocky, confident, whatever adjective you want to use to describe that offensive coordinator. If they feel they can come in here and turn stuff around, they gotta love the perspective because the defense is only going to get better. The defense is only going to get better. You know that you're going to have a solid defense to be able to rely on. You just need to be able to go out there and score on people at will, and at the same time kill their will, kill their spirit, because they know they still have to go out there and play a complete game to beat you. And that's something that teams haven't had to do this year.
Yeah. And I agree with what a lot of the people were saying in the chat. Look, I understand that it's his game management that's the most scary thing to me, because I feel like, that's one of the things that you saw it in the first year. You saw it last year in the Okie Light game where he's, calling timeout at the wrong time. It just seems like in these situations, I mean, I talked about it in my column and I'll say it again, that it was very emblematic of what he does in pressure situations. Late third quarter, Ole Miss game. Look, I don't care if you go for it there or not. It doesn't matter if you go for it there or not. But you could just delay a game if you need to, if you're going to punt it. If you take a timeout, you got to come out with a fucking play, period. Because when you did that, you absolutely showed that you don't believe in this offense. Now, I can understand that you struggle to trust the offense and what they were doing, but they had actually played pretty well in the first half. When you did that, you showed them you didn't trust them at all, and you weren't going to come back from it at that point. If you're going to call a timeout there, you got to go out there and live with the consequences. That's all there is to it. These are the kind of things that we've seen over and over again. These are the kind of, there's no way in hell, whether Jackson knew better than to be better with ball control or not, that you don't make sure when he goes out there, I don't care what happens. If it ain't there, kneel on it. Nobody cares. We'll punt and get the hell out of here and go to overtime. It's another bad game management situation. Now, can you get better from this? Probably. And I think just having some confidence from an offensive guy that you get some explosion, you get some explosive plays, that gives you confidence even on the other side of the ball that we don't have to be perfect. We know that this is going to be a better defense than it is this year, even, I think, in my opinion. And so all you really have to do is go out there and be able to have some explosive plays. Know that you're going to go out there and put up 30 points a game. You're in an opportunity to go win a lot of football games next year. But if you get in those close ones, this is going to be where you're going to find out. You've got to get better at that. You've got to get more comfortable. And you know what? I don't even care if you don't make the right decision. Something that I liked about Dan Lanning last year, I hated that he went for it 3 times in the first game against Washington. Hated it. Thought it was stupidest shit ever. They lost by 6. He gave away 9 points in the first half. Gave it away. In the end, at least he did the shit confidently. There wasn't a thought about it. You know what I mean? You can say what you want to do, but at least whatever you can come off of that style and do it different. But whatever you do, it should already have been thought up. You know what the hell's going to happen right here.
I get you.
Situationally, you got to get better. You got to get better.
You can't really argue with that. Chris Mason, you want to read that comment? Shout out to Kim. What's up, Kim?
Yeah, it will and it won't. I mean, even right now we're seeing recruiting stall because of the on the field problems, So unless you're doing something like, the way Auburn's supporting Hugh Freeze and just throwing money around like no one's business, it's going to be hard. This potential 5-7 season is going to be a bit of an anchor around OU in 2026 recruiting. Now, they've done a great job of relationship building and getting kids on campus, but to continue to keep getting the top 5, the top 50, top 25 kids we need, a smattering of those, plus good evaluations in other spots as well. It's going to be tough. I mean, there's a price coming for this season, and it's going to be some of the recruiting momentum that's going on. So, guys, can we move to my thought experiment for the second half of this? I think we all kind of know where we stand with BV at this point.
Go ahead.
All right, so basically, OU would owe, if you fired BV on 12-1, you'd owe $45 million over about 5 years. Okay, $700,000 a month through 2030. Think about that for a minute. That's like Bobby Bonilla money. So what I've suggested on my Patreon site, if you're on my Patreon site, you already know kind of this scenario, is that if I'm a big money donor, I'm someone that understands big finance. I'm a CFO, CEO type. I understand investing and spending money. So I'm pretty supportive of Brent Venables. So instead of firing him on 12-1 and giving him $45 million over 5 years, I'm going to give BV another year. The buyout drops to like $33 million in 2025. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest back in Brent Venables the buyout difference. So I'm going to give OU $10 to $12 million, the buyout savings. And I'm going to give OU that money above and beyond what was already committed to upgrade the roster via NIL or the portal. So basically, I just watched Ole Miss beat Georgia, right? They turned around, and one year they turned around getting trounced by Georgia to basically dominating Georgia for 4 quarters, right? If you watch that game, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. They went from giving up 300 yards rushing to Georgia to, I think they gave up something like 65 yards rushing to Georgia the other day. So if I'm a big money donor, I just watched that and said, all right, so I want to give Brent another year. We believe in him, but we're going to basically juice up the portal money available. We're going to give an extra 10 to 12 million for Brent to improve the roster in the offseason. So he's got enough money to take some big swings on big talent. Don't bring in 20 guys, right? Bring in 6 or 7 difference makers, right? So I'm giving you 10 to $12 million to go get difference makers. And one way to view this, if you guys watched the Ole Miss game, you're familiar with who OU has is, I'm not knocking the kid because I think he's done well for OU. His dad's a great presence on social media. But I'm saying more Kyle Kennard or Princely Umalian than Caden Woolard, right? So more Lance Hurd than, because I think BV would have made Lance Hurd up. I think that Lance Hurd under Bill Beanbaugh's a very different picture, right? More Jordan Seaton under Bill Beanbaugh than signing 4 guys, right? So if I basically gave you 10 to 12 extra $1 million to bump up this roster, get 5 or 6 difference makers onto this team, I think we can all agree that the obvious answer is, if OU, from a certain perspective, there's no reason OU couldn't have got Cam Ward last year. There's nothing logistically stopping them from doing it, right? They could have got Cam Ward, right? They could have. Or they could have thrown a couple of million at Gabriel and asked him to stay. I don't know that would really ever would have worked. But they made the decision to go with Arnold. They could have gone a different way with that. So let's just say for 2025, I'm giving you $10 to $12 million to spend to get impact guys who will help above and beyond what's already committed for the high school guys and whatever was also going to be available for portal guys. But I'm giving you a chunk of cash to basically Ole Miss up the roster. So let's just move beyond the obvious answer because we know we need a quarterback, right? So if you could spend $2 million on a quarterback in the portal, we'll just discuss the first slot. Who would you do that right now today and guarantee if an agent from a quarterback who's an excellent quarterback who's hitting the portal contacts OU under the table and says, "Hey, we'd love to. My guy wants to be the starting quarterback at OU. What's your deal?" Would you give a Cam Ward-like guy $2 million?
Go ahead, Chris. I want to hear what you say.
For a Cam Ward-like guy, you would have to entertain that heavily. You would have to entertain that heavily, simply because. And don't get me wrong, I think he was going anyways for obvious reasons. He wanted to play for that coach, but with what you lost in Caleb, right? Just saying, with what you kind of lost in Caleb, then kind of bouncing around with the idea of bringing back, Gabriel. And I'm glad that was course corrected. And now the understanding is that BV did not force him out. He chose to leave himself, right?
They didn't give BV. It didn't give BV a chance to sort of re-recruit him.
Yeah.
He just walked in and said, I'm leaving.
So I mean, at this point, I think you are, simply because every team has a window. And I'm not necessarily saying the window's going to close on us, but you're wanting to say that by 2025, 2026, we're competing, right? We're 9-3 or better, right? And that's not even really the standard around here, or what's expected around here. 11-1 at the worst, right? That's the type of school that OU is, right? That's the type of football program that you have here. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's something that you have to say, yes, you have to invest, because this summer here, you can't. There's a couple of things that you can't do. You can toy around at corner and bring in maybe one or so corners, right? You can look at the D line and say, yeah, man, I'm gonna look at the DN. I'm gonna look at the D line. I may bring in one guy off for those two, but I'm just gonna be honest with you. You don't have that luxury at quarterback right now. You damn sure don't necessarily have that luxury at tight end all the way around, right? You got a guy that everybody thinks can be the guy in Devon Mitchell.
Hold on a minute on Devon Mitchell. That may not be the case. If Michael Hawkins doesn't stay, Devon Mitchell doesn't stay.
And I hear you on that, especially with kind of JJF being in limbo. But to directly answer your question, if you could get a Cam Ward like guy, yes, that money's on the table. If you could get a guy, I'm not going to name any names, but if you can get a guy BC, that just expected to enter the portal from BC, guys, that's the guy that I'll go out there. Now, I'm maybe not giving him $2 million, hell, maybe not even $1 million, but I think I'm making it worthwhile and saying, hey, come here, it's a better situation. But
okay,
that's just
all right. So Jason, are you also all in? If I'm giving you that money, that monopoly money, that monopoly portal money, are you also all in at quarterback?
Well, with hindsight, sure. With the benefit of hindsight, but I even think, honestly, I said this.
No, I'm talking not hindsight, like for 2025.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to answer it like you want it. I said last year that we needed to keep Dylan Gabriel. I was one of the few last year that said we needed to keep Dylan Gabriel. One of the few. And I got killed for it on the show, and everybody's like, no, that's bullcrap. You're going to stunt Jackson's growth. He's going to end up leaving, blah, 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 blah. All the same stuff. Once he left, he left. And I don't know that had anything that you could really do about that. But yeah, I mean, I think that you needed somebody with, we were a little concerned. I think a lot of us were a little concerned that you needed somebody with that had some experience, been in some situations, right? I would just tell you that's the deal. Yes, I'd do it. Yeah. And looking at what Cam is, you could have seen it before this that he was going to do well. Now,
he got Cristobal. He can't. He's not powerful enough to overcome the power of the Cristobal.
Well, he's done it a bunch of times. I mean, they've been down in a lot of games. I mean,
he's tried. He's tried.
Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
he didn't once. They didn't come back, but he's had some comebacks from some serious deficits. But I'm not saying that I trust and believe in Mario Cristobal and what's going on in Miami. Believe that. But I would tell you that he's definitely given them an opportunity to be in the playoff. Do I think that it really makes a huge difference here? Not with the coordinator situation.
Okay,
Not with the
but
quarterbacks.
moving forward, you would go.
Sure.
That would be your first move.
Oh, you're
Move on.
talking now, moving forward? Oh, come on. What do we have now? What do we have now? We don't know what we have. We may not have either one of these guys. So I think you have to.
All right. So let's say that your new OC comes in. He's got a short list of guys he wants. He thinks one of those guys hits the portal. Now, Ziaz, Belu, I've been watching some Mateer footage. I'm kind of falling in love there a little bit, guys. The quarterback at WSU. All right. So you spent $2.5 million on a quarterback. All right. So Chris, Jason, what's your next purchase from the portal catalog?
Wide receiver, obviously offensive line, but I would say you need to go get another wide receiver just to ensure, just for insurance, as far as I think, Andrell Anthony and maybe even Gibson are concerned, just to make sure that you have somebody that could step in. That's your second move off the shopping list. How much are we pitching out for this one? Since you said it.
Well, how much are you willing to spend on a wide receiver?
Wide receiver, I would say probably in the ballpark somewhere between 700, maybe 8.
Okay. Jason, what is your second move off my portal shopping list of your dreams? Your list here. What's the number 2 position you're grabbing? And how much are you spending? Just imagine this is like a pro, like your fantasy league football draft where it's an auction draft.
I know where you probably want me to go here is like offensive line, but I'm not of the opinion that you end up with great offensive linemen in the portal. And I don't think that we've seen that. I mean, we've seen that play out this year. We talked about Hurd. Yeah, you could have given him more money, and maybe he's better with Big Bill coaching him up. But he didn't do a damn thing at Tennessee so far this year. Nothing. Yeah, and he also didn't do anything at LSU. So, I mean, in the end, you don't really have to. You don't really. I don't think you need to do that because of the fact that the 2022 class or the 2023 class was very good. The 24K class is really good when it comes to the offensive linemen, and now you've got a 2025 class. Hey man, let these guys go through it and develop right now.
All right. So you're not doing no line.
I wouldn't go there. So I would get really good secondary if I could. If I would probably go there or tight end possibly.
So lockdown corner.
Oh, dude, I'd love to have a lockdown corner. Yes.
So quarterback would be your next spot.
Okay. Corner / maybe. Depending on what ends up happening with the receiver situation, I think that a lot of that has to do with what do we end up seeing, who do we get, who stays around, who leaves. You may need a receiver, but yeah, I think that you kind of finish off this defense if you have another guy at corner that turns into shutdown. Do I think we have some of those guys in the room? Yes. Are they going to be ready right away? Maybe not.
Well, we're not relying on Gentry Williams, right?
No. But I think that Eli Bowen, you can rely on him. I still think that Makari Vickers has a lot to give. You just hadn't seen him a lot this year. He's had some injury stuff, whatever. He may have gotten in the doghouse a little bit, I think. But I didn't understand why he wasn't in more at the end of the game last week. So I think you've got talent in the room, but I think a lot of it is – and Jacoby, look, I think Jacoby's a hell of an athlete. He didn't play very good last week. I also think you need to stop letting him play receiver and let him focus on what he's going to do. But that being said, if you got a guy that comes in and he's a great corner, like for instance, Alabama getting the kid from Michigan this year, what a great pickup. We go get a guy that didn't play in the SEC or in a big time conference or big time games really from San Diego State. What has he really done?
Good early, but he's been banged up and he hasn't been doing great lately. So, all right. So you're going to go. So are you going to go cornerback and you're willing to spend big money on a corner, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
For an elite guy, someone
if he's elite. Listen, I think you go get the best guy out there. I'm not one of these guys that thinks you need to go get stupid heavy in the portal. I think that we see what happens when that doesn't work out with Florida State this year.
All right, so let's just say the number one portal cornerback is asking for $1.5 million. Do you spend that?
On a lockdown corner.
The number one portal cornerback is telling OU, I need $1.5 million for me to consider visiting.
Pay it.
All right. So my number 2 move would be defensive end pass rusher. I think if you can get a Kyle Kennard or a Princely Yamalian to be across from well, that's how you say his last name, right? Yamalian. All right. Yamalian. If you can get either, I mean, I watched that guy dominate Georgia. We watched Kyle Kennard dominate Alabama and everybody he's played. If you could put him across from R. Mason Thomas, along with the young defensive ends we have and the young defensive tackles we have, I think if you can get a quarterback, then an elite defensive end. Again, Caden Williams has been a good Sooner. I'm not knocking the kid at all. But if we had Scorton, Kennard, or Yamamalian across from RMT, mixed in with Downs as your 3 defensive ends, this OU defense would be an absolute beast for folks. I mean, right? If we had 2 pass rushers, you had to worry about R. Mason on 3rd down and 3rd and 16. If you had RMT on one end and somebody like Kyle Kennard on the other side, you would not have had some of the defensive lapses in the passing game that we've seen, right? Because quarterbacks would not be positive back there. So Chris, you're going wide receiver.
Oh, let me correct. Hey, Benji, we're saying getting players comparable to those guys. We know some of these guys are going to be gone. We're saying getting comps.
No, I'm talking about comps. I'm talking about
some people in the audience, they only understand.
I'm talking about for 2025. We're talking 2025. We are not relitigating who we picked up in 2024.
Right.
2025, I'm saying, give you a pool of money and go get 5 or 6 difference makers. Basically, Ole Miss says, well, we're taking this guy, and you swoop in and say, no, you're coming to Norman instead. Tell me what Ole Miss is giving you. We're 10% over the top. Come to Norman instead, right? That this is it. If what are those positions you think on our roster are worth doing that for?
Bullshit.
I was like, what are you talking about? Anyways, yeah.
All right, so that's what I'm talking about. So I'm taking we're all taking a quarterback first. Chris, you're going wide receiver next. Jason's going for a shutdown corner. All right. So let's just say we've all spent $4 million so far. No, actually, Jason and I spent $4 million. Chris, you're right around 3.5. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're third. You need to get at least 5 or 6 people. What's your next position you're looking for an upgrade for? Or a guy what's the position you're bringing in?
I'll give you my next 2. I would say left tackle. Got to go get me a left tackle. Just insurance purposes, not getting a G5, going to get me a P4 guy. And then obviously I would probably go look at defensive line. And I mean, I'm just going to give you the next 3. D-line, I would go left tackle, probably D-end, because I think we'll be all right. I think we're about 5 with Stoney, Jackson, hopefully Dominic Williams comes back. Then you'll have Halton, G-Baby out there, and then you'll have Sanders, who I think can be in the rotation. Obviously, Marcus Strong is there. We'll have to see what he does at the end of the year, end of the season. But I think that those 5 names that I just named, I think those really solidify that D tackle spot, right? You bringing in, gosh, I'm forgetting his name, but the kid out of the DC area, right? Trent Wilson. Yeah, so you're bringing him in there. So you're gonna have depth there. But I would go get me kind of like a guy at the defensive end position, somebody who could come in and really push PJ for that spot opposite of R. Mason. I think, the Taylor Himes, guys like that, I'm eager to see them. But like I said, I would go left tackle. Honestly, just offensive line. You put offensive lineman out there.
Does it have to be a tackle? Or if the best guy is a guard, are you taking him? Or are you only spending money on a tackle?
I would take a guard, because at this point, with what Beatonbow can do for a team, for a player, with their development or whatnot, they can play any position. That's what Beatonbow is going to recruit anyways. A guy that may have a designated spot, but can play another spot if he needs him.
So are you going to go? You've got about $12 million. Are you only going to get one offensive lineman, or are you going to get two?
That would probably be my after I get my DN and my corner, probably going back to the offensive line.
Okay. All right. Jason, Chris just jumped the rules and picked two guys, so I'll let you pick two guys.
He's doing the snake draft shit.
He's doing the snake drafts. He's going up and down this. He's going up and down the perimeter. He just drafted Baker Mayfield. Just drafted Baker Mayfield and Jamar Chase in the same draft, in the same round, back to back. Asshole.
I get it. No, listen, he can do that as long if it works and we get those guys, then I don't care. Look, I'm gonna stick with what I've been saying. I think we need to go with the guys that we have now through high school and develop them. I think that the depth is there. You've been talking about this a lot, that we don't have to go crazy in the portal on the O-line. I agree with you. I don't think that I think the next place I would go, more pass rush, maybe another linebacker. If you had, a really good linebacker situation.
Are you really going to spend $2 million on a linebacker though?
Not $2 million. No. If you're going to spend $2 million, you're going to get a badass pass rusher that can get to the quarterback for sure, and it just adds depth there, because I think that we're really good there too. The idea of Danny Okoye coming into his own this next year is exciting. I also believe that I think that PJ's got to come around at some point, right? Year 3, and
I think it's not PJ.
We've seen.
Yeah, it's not PJ's. It's his health. It's just the foot. It's the foot. It's the nagging foot, ankle stuff from the moment.
And this is why they talk about competitive depth all the time. Take a drink. You know what I mean? This is what we do. We have to talk about it, but this is what you need a little more of. I think as the season's progressed a little bit, we haven't gotten to the quarterback quite as much as we'd like to, because you've had a few guys banged up and not getting as much penetration as you were. But yeah, if we're spending $2 million, you got to go to the edge.
Okay. So the edge is the next spot. All right. So you're going to get an edge rusher, and you're allowed another pick because Chris cheated.
Okay. We're snaking it. Okay.
Up and down the board there.
I'm gonna cheat really quick right now. I think some of this money, why not kick it over to go get the guy that I want to get as a coach? Because I know you're gonna tell me this ain't gonna happen. I want to see them. Somebody said this in there earlier in the comments, and I got to give them love for it. I want to see them go get our guy at Oregon. That's who I want them to go get. And I think that you can deal with it, because if you get the guy and you announce it,
all right, let's
be in the playoffs.
You've been down this road on like every pod we talk about.
So I don't care. I'm going to
go real quick. I'm going to go real quick with you. I'm going to go real quick with you. You pull in. Okay, so I'm big money donor. And I'm like I'm giving you 10, 12 million upgrade the roster. We're already got 2.5 committed to an offensive coordinator you want, but you're telling me you want to take money from here. So if Will Stein costs, you can get Will Stein for $4 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
For $4 million a year. Okay. Are you willing to take $2 million out of your transfer portal pool and expend it on Will Stein versus all other OC candidates?
Oh yeah.
So you're willing to go to
because you're going to end
up willing to go 4.5 to 4.5 for Will Stein.
Yeah, because you're going to end up with samples and your quarterback Dante as well.
Okay, but you don't know that. You don't know that you're getting samples.
You don't know that. But
Dante Moore, what has Dante Moore done this year?
Look, he hasn't done anything this year because he hadn't have to. But we know that Dylan Gabriel's looked better.
He could be Dinty Moore and just be and be, canned stew versus.
Come on, bro. We've seen him in person. I've seen him in person. He's not.
I have too. He's not
a
that good. He wasn't that good at UCLA.
No, bro. I tell you, I think that he's going to be a lot better player. He's going to be a lot better player.
All right.
You get that time to work with this guy that knows what he's doing.
All right. So you're willing to spend 4.5 on Will Stein.
Yeah.
Taking 2 from your player number.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're only getting 4 portal
Listen,
players.
I got a shutdown corner already. I got a badass defensive lineman, and I got a quarterback.
You don't need anything more.
Look,
if you get Will Stein. You get Will Stein.
I've already got those 3 major pieces to the puzzle, plus what they already have in the building. I want the baddest guy in the room. That's who I want.
All right, so you're willing to go Will Stein over Dan Mullen, 2 more million for Will Stein, even if I can guarantee you Jordan Seaton for that $2 million.
Hey, this is
you're willing to forego.
This is where
Jordan Seaton.
Hey, we're not out of money yet.
All right, okay, all right, you're close, but that's all right. All right, for my next 2 picks. Since we're doing the Kchris thing, I'm all over. We need a shutdown corner and we need a big time wide receiver. But I want a big time wide receiver, not screwing around here. We got good freshmen coming in. I don't know what's going on with the guys coming back. I don't know who's coming back, who's leaving. But I'm not. Again, this is. I'm the big money donor. I'm telling Brent, this is $12 million to save your job next year, to reboot our program, so that we're not having this conversation in mid-November about whether you're staying or not. Okay? So I'm going hardcore for a Trey Harris or a Deion Coleman type wide receiver. The best, big-bodied, ridiculous SEC-looking wide receiver in the portal. And I'm grabbing the best. I'm dropping $1.5 million for both of them for the best guys because I'm only going to spend 2.5 on my OC. So, all right, Kchris, you have one last guy you can pick up. You can go across the roster, whatever you think you want to do. Who are you adding with your last magic bean to $1.5 million, $2 million roster spot? Who else are you adding?
How much do I have again?
You got at least $2 million.
I have at least $2 million. Okay.
You can go across college football. The best guy that comes in this portal at every position. You have the ability to contact him, contact his agent, and say, "I have $2 million for you." What position to guarantee we're not firing Brent Venables next year do you spend it on?
I'm gonna be honest with you. You're gonna be a little bit mad at me because I'm cheating again. But you say I have $2 million.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have 1.2 mil because I'm going to go out there and spend some money on the tight end. I'm gonna get another tight end, bring him in, get a whatever Jake Roberts was supposed to do this year. Get that guy who can actually do that and a little bit more. Kind of like the tight end that you saw go from Maryland to Bama. That type of tight end. I know that you could say that we got depth or whatnot, but is Caden Hell's going to really stay healthy? Caden McIntyre, that's kind of a question up in the air now. Devon Mitchell, we know, could be that guy. I think Barrett Sharp is poor man's Grant Calcaterra all day, but there's still some questions at that spot. And you've seen with some of the blocking schemes and different things like that, you need a guy. You need another guy out there. So I would go do that. And then my last, I guess if you say 1.2 million, which would be enough to get anybody else, most likely going to I think that if it's either going to be the O-line or it'd be the D-line. It just would depend on who's available at that time.
All right, are you going to spend $1.2 million to keep Dominic Williams for another year?
Yeah, I would. I'd do that. Yep.
All right. Okay. All right, Jason, you are down to one more guy. You have your quarterback, your cornerback, and your edge rusher.
Go get you a big badass receiver now too, because now that you got your OC that I wanted, now you go get the guy that can tear the top off.
Okay. All right. So
I win.
No, you don't. So I'm going to really cheat since you guys have gone off the rails a little bit. So I got $2 million left. I'm going to give $1 million to Dominic Williams to keep him. Tell him just stay for a year, get you a better draft slot. And then I'm going to really cheat. I'm going to take that other $1 million and I'm going to go off, get a hold of Deshaun Brom's agent, the tight end from high school tight end from Kansas. And I'm going to give him whatever the damn hell he wants, including a soccer scholarship for his girlfriend that attends Tennessee, and sweeten that spot a little bit. And I'm going to get Deshaun Brom, old 6'5", 245 pounds of him, and get him enrolled in Norman to complement Davon Mitchell. He enrolls early, and because here's the concern I've had. You mentioned the tight end, but when OU grabbed Barra Sharp, they were looking at like 3 or 4 other tight ends in the transfer portal, at least allegedly. And guess what, guys? All of those guys have like a third of Barra Sharp's receiving yards. I can't. The portal and tight ends is a very small pool. I don't think you can effectively find the guy you need. So I'm just going to flip that money back to high school. Tell them Joe Jon Finley's fired. I don't know. Lie to them and tell them that Keith Jackson's coaching tight ends. I don't care.
I love it.
Go get Deshaun Brom, add his girlfriend to the soccer team. Do the old, do the Peyton Bowen recruiting pitch. Get the girlfriend on the soccer team. Get her out of Tennessee. Sweeten her deal. Sweeten Deshaun Brom's deal over and above whatever Tennessee's paying him, and get him on campus.
All right. Yeah, I still won. Come on. I still won.
You did not win.
I still won. Come on.
I think I built a beast, man. I think I built a beast.
All right. So that's another reason I drug you through this exercise is allegedly this is the sort of calculations that went on over the last couple of days. OU OU big money donors allegedly are throwing around giving Brent this kind of money and telling him that go Ole Miss this sucker up.
Shit.
and giving him money above and beyond what was
We
already.
were just having a game. We were just playing.
No, it's been floating around on different places that this is not. That this is not that far from the truth. That OU, the big money donors have looked at the picture. It's either, George Stoya tonight calculated that replacing Brent, the end bill of replacing Brent, by the time you calculate everything, could be close to $100 million before you hired the next guy and the new staff. It's basically a drain of nearly $100 million by the time you're done. So if I'm a big money donor, I think I would rather than have a write off $100 million loss, I would probably give Brent $12 million with some explicit instructions to him and to Curtis Lofton and say, here's $12 million. Go upgrade the roster. Don't bring in 20 kids. Bring in 6 kids that are going to be actual difference makers, the best ones.
I love it.
So that's what's apparently flying around the OU space, is that OU might actually try and do something like this, depending upon how things shake out with the rest of the year. So that's why I drug you through this exercise. Is I think you may see OU. Let's be honest. I'm a recruiting guy. If a big money donor had just stepped in the last 2 years and bought Francis Muiaga from IMG and bought Jordan Seaton last December because he was for sale, he was going to visit OU. OU just wasn't willing to match his price. If you'd bought both of those guys, they would have been your starting bookend tackles this year, and you would not. And they would have been the depth you would have needed. And they're SEC tackles. They're SEC players. And then you bring in Fasusi and Foji this year behind them, and all of a sudden, Sexton's hurt and Taylor's hurt. Okay, you've got elite depth behind them, and you're never Spencer Brown and Michael Tarquin are never starting a game for you.
Hey, no shit.
Right? And you could have had either of those guys. Mariaga was at IMG. The Clemson guys all had the connections there. He wanted to visit OU. Miami just offered him the best deal. I mean, we bought Stone away from Miami. Why didn't we buy a 5-star offensive tackle instead as well? Or instead of, or as well as. We could have got Seton last year. He was at IMG. He wanted to play for Bill. He loved Phil Loadholt, who was a Bill protege. Right? If we just offered Seton the right amount of money, he started for Colorado all this year. He's looked great.
I don't think it was just about the money stuff. I think a lot of it had to do with Coach Prime and them.
Well, at least you would know, right? At least you'd know.
Sure.
I mean, right? I mean, at least we needed another tackle. We needed another tackle to that recruiting class last year.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
So if you'd at least offered him, you'd at least said, someone could have said, well, why we missed out on guys? Hey, we offered Seton the same amount as Prime. I know we didn't, though.
Right. Well, and I would say that with what Benji's saying, the one thing he's probably said cool in the last couple of minutes was, you got Fasusi on the line right now. You got to lock that down, no matter what. If that some of that money should go to that, if that's what it has to go to. Because
I think they've already had those. I think they've already had those discussions.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying that's where you. To me, I'm really not loving this portal stuff, and I think you have guys there right now that are ready to go. They are ready to go, and they can be ready to go certainly by next season if you're focused on them. So, if you get an elite guy that's already an SEC guy, something like that, sure, fine, go for it. But I don't love this go for SMU guys or going for these guys from these other conferences. I'm just not. I haven't seen it really work very well this year.
Right, but at quarterback, it's different, right? Would you say quarterback, that's a different calculation?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But
I think that you have to, this is something that me and my uncle talk about an awful lot every time we're on the phone. You gotta do something, man. Like the thing is I think I speak for a lot of Sooner fans, even the ones who are kind of down in the dumps and want to see basically everything burned down at this point. I think everybody wants BV to be successful, and we want BV to be the guy. This has nothing to do with what Lincoln did anymore. This has nothing to do. I think everybody genuinely likes BV.
Sure.
There's not really a bad thing that you ever hear or anything say. It's just some decisions that have been made, and we've talked about those not only on this podcast, but other podcasts in the past, repeatedly over the week, all the rest of that, and you're hearing it from everywhere else. But the point is that I don't think that we're at the point where we have to become just super drastic and all the rest of this stuff. We're not rebuilding a defense anymore. We're not necessarily even rebuilding an offense. What we're saying is that, and let's be honest, it takes a little bit of luck too. And a lot of that luck that you do talk about is just making it through each count healthy. That is point blank and simple. Like you got to be able to stay healthy. And I think coming in, I think what we have to look, there's a bit of grain of salt with all the damperness, the Debbie Downer talk that we've been doing. I think that in a perfect world, if the offensive line is healthy, you're probably not seeing Tarquin and a lot of these guys. You're probably seeing them rotate in. You're not necessarily seeing them. I think you're seeing both of the Jakes, right? And I think you're seeing Hatchett at one of the guards. I think you're seeing either Hickman or Everett man down the center spot. And I think Waywood is probably the only one out of all of them that is probably starting that came in the transfer portal, right?
And he hasn't been great most of the year.
And that's what I'm saying. There have been some things since that just were out of your control, to be honest with you.
But there are other guys they could have taken in the portal that on the O-line. J.C. Davis at Illinois, for example, was someone they were looking at. He could have been. He's been very good at Illinois. Missing on him was a mistake. But I'm just saying, guys.
What Chris was saying though about the Venables stuff. And Marcus Dent's in here right now. Him and Big Mike Boganowski come on my show every Monday morning, and we've been talking a lot. These guys are there these kids want to play for Venables more than anything else. It's more about that than it is what we as fans think. The kids want to play for him. They feel just as bad about losing and him being in that position, I think, as anybody else. And I've heard this week after week. Even with everything that's gone on, you're not hearing these guys lose their shit. You know, there's concern, there's stuff like that, but they want it to work out. And look, I don't think that there's too many guys around the country that out recruit these guys. You can say that you can go off of the ratings if you want to, but if you just take a look at a few guys that are on that 24K class that were way underrated, you know I'm telling the truth.
My main point about this was, look, we all want Brent succeeding is the best option for OU, fiscally, on the field, etc. Right? Brent hiring an offensive coordinator, getting a new quarterback in here, going 8-4 next year. You do that, your 2026 class. By the way, plug for the podcast I just loaded last night. Top 26 players for 2026 that OU has a chance at. Your 2026 class could have another wave of offensive linemen, more elite D-line, linebackers, wide receivers, running backs, the whole 9 yards. You could restock the cupboard again. So the point to me is, if you were given $12 million extra dollars in in terms of NIL money, would I throw some money? Would I make some haymaker time? Right? Because you want Brent to succeed. You cannot go 5-7 again. You cannot rely on, well, we think PJ would be the guy. If you can get a Kyle Kennard to go with RMT, and if PJ's an animal in spring and an animal in the fall, then you got three of them. And that's what you need to make it through an SEC run or even a playoff run. I'm just saying. I think that's why
about everything that we're saying about the defense this or the offensive line this or that, honestly, if we just had playmakers this year that could have had any explosive plays, I mean, the defense has been good enough that if you just do anything offensively and having a guy, you tell me a guy like a Ryan Williams doesn't come in here and do different things, because he would.
Yeah. I mean,
you get a guy like that. You get a guy that's going to get an extra few sacks a game, whatever. It could change the complexion of everything too. I agree with you on this. I think you're absolutely right. And that's why I'm so against going stupid heavy on that offensive line stuff. I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
If there was a guy out there, one guy, that's what I would do on the portal for the offensive line. One guy, like that guy's a surefire starter for us, creates competition and depth on our offensive line, then I would do it. Other than that, I'm with you. Build what you got, build from within, and keep building better classes, because it'll insulate you from that kind of problem. But where we're on board here. So let's just say Cam Coleman decides that Hugh Freeze is freezing crazy, right? And he hits the portal, right? I'd drop $1.5 million on Cam Coleman, wouldn't you?
Oh, dude, hell yeah.
I mean, would you drop 2? I might be like,
yes,
right? I'm just saying, this is what I'm talking about, is that, there's a lot of freaking talent at Auburn, right? Not being used. That Kendrick Falk kid, that massive defensive end they have, if he hit the portal, would you drop $2 million on him? I would. He's the 6'7", 265-pound guy who's in our backfield all day. I'm just saying that even believing with Brent, even believing in his high school recruiting and his development process, I still, if you gave me $12 million, I would go, yes, I'm going to drop $2 million on 6 elite guys. Maybe it's 5, depending on how much I want to spend on a quarterback, because I'm not gambling next year on, well, Hawkins under a new guy could do this, or Jackson could do this under a new guy, or Kevin Sperry can be the world's greatest freshman quarterback in the history of college football. I'm not gambling on any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing we've seen from Arnold or Hawkins, from a gambling, my job perspective, if it was my job, not if I was Brent Venables, I would be like, give me the cash, Curtis. This week, I need to know the 10 top quarterbacks that could potentially be in the portal. I need them identified, ready for my new OC to tell me which one. We are tampering as all get out with. I mean, when you go 5-7, it's no longer like, well, we're going to be the honorable Oklahoma. We need to tamper like some MFers
do that
and
part.
get those 5 or 6 difference makers. Go ahead. Sorry, go, Chris.
Money, if you're getting that money, people, you have to be active in the portal. There's no way to sit there and, on 12 million, 10 million, 5 million, or whatever the case may be.
Get a bunch of dudes. Go get some guys that can go.
Yeah.
We've got good players, but if you can't tell me,
go get a difference makers.
Yes, if you had Kyle Kennard or Princely Umamlinium, sorry, you're sorry, Princely, if your family's listening for butchering your last name. If you had that guy across from him in the Missouri game, 3rd and 16, they don't ever get that damn ball off. That Jacoby Johnson fell down by keeping shot. And it does that 33-yard pass doesn't happen. Missouri ends up in 4th and 16, and you probably win that damn football game. A difference maker on the other side from RMT. You could win the Missouri game, right? And you could be more of a factor in some of these other games. But I do think, once I'm getting beyond the whole offensive coordinator thing, right? Because that was a mess. You get a better offensive coordinator in here.
Sure.
You have an actual strat. I mean, you wasted an entire 10-month offseason due to the fact you hired the wrong guy, offensive coordinator. No O-line development was going. Wide receiver development of the young kids wasn't happening. Emmett Jones is a good coach. He improved every wide receiver he had with us last year, right? They all played better. But he couldn't get any of our young guys going this year because he wasted all of his development cycle. Because they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Right.
I mean, is it a wonder that DeMarco's running backs look better now that we actually have been running some sort of vague offensive scheme as opposed to whatever the hell we were doing the first 7 weeks?
I want to know where the hell he's been hiding Xavier Robinson. That's a offense in and of itself.
Well, that may be true too. I'm not going to disagree there.
Boomer 129, you ass clown. You can't see nothing through the trees. What are you talking about? The medical staff and compliance? What are you pulling this out of the air?
Some people have been talking about that, and as far as just kind of
the med staff has been a massive problem. That's gonna happen. But compliance at this point, I mean, again, really, I mean, who gives a shit about compliance, right? I mean, really, I mean. Again,
Bagman. There's a reason they're Boomer 129 and Bagman. There's a reason why these guys don't give you their name. Shit, I wouldn't call them shit either.
but I just think Brent's so close, and you can't go 5-7 again in the SEC. You just can't. So eliminate all margins of error and overload. Right? And if someone says, "Oh, well, the culture in the locker room," I'm sure once those, it's like when Adrian Peterson walked on campus, everybody's like, "Well, this freshman's not going to take over this team," and then everyone's like, "Well, actually, yes, he fucking is." So let's move on.
Yeah.
So this is to make this an explicit podcast. I'm just saying, this is you. If I'm a big money donor and I love Brent, I'm telling him, I got you cash. Go get portal difference makers to stuff your roster to eliminate the margins of going 5-7 next year and put you much closer to 8-4, or even better if the quarterback clicks and everything we suspect that it's the injuries and it was the bad OC have derailed momentum, and then when the injuries come back to some average delta, and a new offensive coordinator has us in a scheme all off season from game 1 to game 12 that's consistent, has a game plan, schemes guys open. set stuff up, just all the average offensive coordinator 101 skills that we anticipate, that all of those things could happen and Brent could be 8-4. But why gamble when you're being offered a lifeline to stack your roster?
Now, I agree with you, Chris Mason, but Jason, are you okay?
Damn,
like,
I'm just about knocked
I
over.
was like, you have
like,
Jason take his headphones off. I said, whoa, what's going on? Get the I mean, I agree with you, Chris Mason. I think, you know, my uncle, he's been like, man, it hurts me because Chris Mason's my guy, man. It hurts me, man, because I've been saying all along, we got to get in the freaking portal and go get guys. Don't go over there and get these G5 All-Americans and all the rest of that. Go get some difference makers. If you have the money.
I understand early on doing that because you needed to stack talent on the roster and get some guys that were, you know, but at this point right now, it's not a talent thing. It's a health thing. You got to get healthy. We know that.
Yeah.
But I would tell you that if it was, if this was all because of the training staff and all that shit, you would see the same amount of injuries on both sides of the ball. That's not what we're seeing, guys. It's such a stretch to go there, is what I'm getting at. I mean, look, I'm not saying there can't be, that there's nothing wrong. There could be something wrong. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But it feels a little far-fetched. In the end, there's a lot of things that have happened, but truth be told, they've got plenty of talent if they can hold on to some of it. Now, the concern I would have would definitely be quarterback. You know what I mean? That's the concern I would have. But go get you a damn quarterback. I agree. You go get the best guy you can get, give him the money, and find, you know, go out there and find your guys. Go get them. And that's why I'm still on this. I mean, you're going to hear me continue to say Will Stein until he says no 5 times and blocks BV's.
Well, we now have an idea, Jason, of how far you are willing to go on Will Stein. So at least we have a price. We have a price tag it's attached to it.
Will Stein would have to reply back to an email from Jason and Comic Sans for him to leave it alone. Finally, he would have to be in Comic Sans in all caps. He'll just say, "Fuck no."
So I'm Jason. I'm going to find Will Stein's agent and say, Our little podcast has $4.5 million for you to be the OC. Are we in the ballpark? Are we in the ballpark? And the thing, are we in the ballpark? I mean, it would be a shocking but amazing move if OU pulled Will Stein away from national championship favorite Oregon to come be our OC, and we went with a number that even Phil Knight at Nike just couldn't believe. Like, get the fuck out of here. OU's not paying you $4.5 million. That's monopoly money. And then Will Stein says, "Well, I've signed the damn contract, so see ya." You know. But we know that. But we now know how far you want to go. I mean,
clown number 2 in here, frightening truth. Looky there, Ass Clown 2. You got dipshit crew over here. Swear to God.
Texas fans are like vultures, man. They just
circle
you
until
they
pounce.
Hey, you know, they better beware the hogs. The last time they went to Fayetteville, they got dump trucked by a bad Arkansas team.
They do.
KJ Jefferson is still rushing for touchdowns against that UT defense, and like I said, I'm pretty sure that was Sark, was it not?
Look, we didn't come here for that. You already know, horns down always, but still, let them do what they do. We over here having family conversations. People, we've been on here for 1 hour and 19 minutes, and this was actually a really, really good pod. This was a really good pod.
It was fun.
This weekend
for a bye week, this is a great pod.
There's some really good games on or whatnot. I'll definitely be watching and whatnot, but we will be back for the Bama preview. Probably do a couple of Bama things. We got a bunch of Bama fans in this content creator circle or whatnot. I know a bunch of us will probably be hitting up Ty, telling him, "Hey man, you need to work overtime this week." But with that being said, people, go ahead, like, subscribe, do all those different things to all the channels that are on here right now. Sooners 360, Horns Down Podcast, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast with Jason and Coach. Do that. The Patreon link for Sooners 360 is down here. We even got a link for you if you're watching on my channel or wherever you're watching from. We got a link to, I think, one of Jason's latest episodes as well in the bio. Go down there and look at it, people. Just, like, subscribe, do all those different things. Help us out. We were 4 away, Jason, from being at 800 over here at the Horns Down, man. We just slowly, steadily chipping that way. I know. We just doing a thing. We doing a thing.
But, it's about time. Come on.
I know. But hey,
do all those things. The line. Let's go.
But as the last word, I will say this right here, people. We got our coach. I believe that. I think I say BV turns it around. I had to see him with a new OC, hopefully outside of the OU program. No ties to the OU program. No ties to Stoops. No ties to Dabo especially. I think he gets it right next season. We'll go from there. We'll be back to preview this Bama game next week. All of us, like I said, link in this in the bio for every channel. Definitely check it.